Om. Om Sadgurubhyo Namaha. Om Sadgurubhyo Namaha. All the dignitaries on the stage, Sri Sitaraman, Srimati Lalita Sitaraman, the scholars who are going to speak today, and the friends who have come with interest in the subject. I would like to first of all thank the two organizers, one from Kumbakonam and the others who are all descendants of those who came originally from Kashmir. My obeisance to that lineage which is responsible for keeping the flag of Kashmiri identity within the greater map of Sanatana Dharma of Bharat. My admiration, respects, and pranam to the entire lineage who have stood against onslaught. Your ancestors, and perhaps even immediate ancestors, had to leave your own nativity, leaving behind your property, your home, and the amount of problems that you have faced, and like phoenix, the mythical bird, you have come back with greater power. As someone who had been attracted to Kashmir from my teenage, that time I didn't know the name of Abhinavagupta, to be honest with you. But I don't know, there has been a psychic relationship with Kashmir for me. Perhaps I was in Kashmir in my previous janma. My dear sister, Mrs. Garyali, will know all the hardships I faced in early 1980s, because I wrote that Kashmir had been a probable home of Bharata Muni. A small group of Tamil fanatics, which included big names, went on attacking me personally for 1 or 2 years in every magazine, calling me a drohi to Tamil cause. You remember? Mrs. Garyali remembers. Tamil Drohi Padma Subramaniam, she remembers. But nothing stopped me from my love for Kashmir. Because Kashmir is part of us. Kashmir to Kanyakumari is what we think, or perhaps even before if you think, I don't believe in this PMK, that has to be part of us very soon. Actually, the greater Bharat was from Afghanistan to Burma. That was Bharat. According to Puranic geography, the whole earth was made up of 7 continents, Dvipa. And Jambu Dvipa was one of those. And I went into the geographical details from Puranic geography, and I found that Jambu Dvipa meant Eurasia. And our Sanatana Dharma was very much prevalent in that whole landmass, which includes part of Europe and the whole of Asia. So Kashmir is very, very important for not only our religious values. Kashmir has been a very important kshetra. Kshetra is space from where intellectual, artistic, and literary contributions had come up. It had been a fountainhead. You know, there was a university there, the Takshashila. And Abhinavagupta comes from that lineage of extraordinary genius. Somebody who could think beyond the human level, but also at human level. He was both bhakti, mukti, and all that based on bhakti. That is summing up of what Abhinavagupta gave us. Apart from all his philosophical writings, which made Kashmiri Shaivism popular, he was not inventing, he was popularizing. Abhinavagupta was a bridge between what was going to come and what had been handed over to him by his own gurus who came from Punjab, Assam, and they say South India, we don't know where. So he was a symbol of what we may call understanding everything that is tangible to be Lord Shiva, a manifestation of Lord Shiva. And it's very interesting to see at that point of history of our country, when Abhinavagupta was propagating Shaivism in Kashmir and other parts of North India, Saint Ramanuja was propagating Vaishnavism at the same time. For Ramanuja, the whole world was a manifestation of Vishnu. And for Abhinavagupta, the whole creation is a manifestation of Shiva. But both of them contributed towards strengthening Hinduism, strengthening Sanatana Dharma, when there was an onslaught. And that is why, we have to believe in what Bhagavan Krishna wrote in Bhagavad Gita, that phrase, Sambhavami Yuge Yuge. When there is a need, when there is a decay decline in dharma, he says he is born again and again. And that way our country was very fortunate to have great seers like Abhinavagupta to re-establish dharma when there was a danger. This is a time when we have to think of all those great seers, whether it is Adi Shankaracharya or Abhinavagupta or someone who propagated a special Vishesha Advaita, Visishta Advaita, which is Ramanuja, or somebody who gave us Dvaita. These are all philosophical theorems which may go above the heads of normal people. But what they did was they also gave us stotras for bhakti. And Bhairava Stotra is one of those. I would like to say that in my dance school, Nrityodaya, every child, we start giving lessons from the age of 7. Every child, before doing pranam to the bhumi, the prayer that they say is Om Brahmane Namaha, Om Maheshwaraya Namaha, Om Vishnave Namaha, Om Tandave Namaha, Om Bharataya Namaha, Om Abhinavagupta Padacharyaya Namaha. And end it with Sadgurubhyo Namaha. Endaro Mahanubhavulu Andariki Vanchanamu. This is how we teach in our school. So Abhinavagupta belongs to every part of India and every part of the world. Such seers, we only think of where they were born. Sometimes we can't even go into Rishi Moolam or Nadi Moolam. Wherever they came from is not important. What they gave us, how we can learn those philosophical tenets and how much can we follow. This is most important. Abhinavagupta had many faces. He was multifaceted. There was not anything that he didn't touch upon. What was so relevant for me was, of course, his commentary on Natya Shastra. I've been given many awards. Why did I get those awards? It was because I followed Abhinava Bharati. Dhvanyaloka and Natya Shastra, the two commentaries that came for these works, have been guidebooks for the field of performing arts and for Alankara Shastra, rhetorics. Without these two works of Abhinavagupta, I think Indian culture would have been poorer. There were many riddles in Natya Shastra because it is almost in sutra form. If I tell my Tamil friends, Tirukkural has, each Kural has only 7 words. In 7 words, profound ideas are embedded. You need commentary for the whole thing. Like that, Bharata's Natya Shastra is in sutra form. It is not easy to understand. Unless there was one Abhinavagupta, we could not have understood what Bharata says. And mind you, the British people, along with other Europeans, had started writing history of India to suit their need of divide and rule. So they created a big gap between north and south, particularly between the whole country and Tamil Nadu, with the cock and bull story of Aryan and Dravidian race theory. This was Max Miller's idea. And Max Miller also was responsible for limiting the antiquity of all our works, including Rig Veda, to suit the idea, the biblical idea of creation of the world, which started on, I don't remember the exact date, but 4004 BC. How ridiculous it is. 4004 BC. And it is equally ridiculous that many of our works and names of great saints had been diminished. The dates had been diminished. There is a saying, there is a belief that Abhinavagupta Acharya had a debate with Adi Shankaracharya. This is what they say in Kashmir, right? I've heard this saying. But this is because of the wrong impression that we get by reading history of India written by the foreigners and by those who follow that. The date of Adi Shankaracharya becomes very relevant because Adi Shankaracharya's date has been confirmed as 509 BC, but he is generally taken to be 8th century AD. Look at the time that has been lost in our understanding. Unfortunately, in history, the books don't give you the results of new research. Whereas you go to a doctor for cancer, they will go into the latest medicines, what latest research has gone into that field, and that will be incorporated. But in the study of history, particularly Indian history, we still stick to what the whites gave us. This mental block has to be blown out. Then the connection between Kashmir and South India will be understood. The Britishers told us that India was never a nation. But my study of Natya Shastra and Abhinavagupta has shown me that the whole of Bharatavarsha has had one cultural canopy. By Bharatavarsha, it is also important to know that Jambu Dvipa is the bigger landmass of Europe and Asia together. In Jambu Dvipa, Bharatavarsha is south of Meru mountain, which is the present, geographic study, Pamir mountains. In Tamil, you call it Mudichu, Pamir Malai Mudichu. Malai Mudichu because it is it's a very fountainhead of energy. Fountainhead of energy that comes and holds the whole earth. And that energy is worshipped as our Amba, our Shakti. There's an extraordinary connection between science and art, science and history, science and our Sanatana Dharma religion. And in Kashmiri Shaivism, that Shakti is very important. Unless you go through your mother, your father is not going to give you any boon. And it's the same thing in South India also. In our Tamil Nadu, worship of mother is equally important. We even have Ardhanirish, half Shiva and half Parvati. And coming to Bhairava worship, I would like to tell you, last week, just about 6-7 days back, I went to a Bhairava temple in Chettinad. I want our Kashmiri friends to go to the temple. You will see the connection between the Bhairava cult of Abhinavagupta and Kashmir. And right down south in Tamil Nadu in Bhairava temple. And almost every major Shiva temple in Tamil Nadu has a special shrine for Bhairava. Bhairava is an important murti. Whether it is in Kashi, you have Kala Bhairava, you have, in fact, in Karnataka, a very big temple for Bhairava has been built with each Bhairava to the dimension of about 6 to 7 feet height. I have myself not seen, this is a new temple. So here you see that Bhairava cult with Chettinad Vairavan Kovil. It is called not Bhairava but Vairava. It's a phonetic difference. All Ba becomes Ba. Bangala becomes Vangala in Tamil. So this Vairavan Kovil is one of the 7 temples which becomes the Kula Devata of the Vaishya community. Only 6 days back I went there. And it's the same figure with the same number of hands, same characteristic. Why I am talking about these connections is Kashmir is as much as mine as it is yours. I feel every inch of Kashmir has to be got back. We cannot lose even 1 inch. It belongs to Bharat and it will be with us. And Abhinavagupta's influence will be there. I'm very happy to learn that recently the cave was opened up and the present government had given all the support to the devotees to go and worship there. I request you, my dear brothers and sisters who have come from Kashmir origin, take me there one day. I have been to Kir Bhavani and I'm so happy. Recently there has been a beautiful festival and particularly happy to know that VIPs from other communities took part without any differences. And as far as the Karana, because you all think that I revitalized the learning of Karana, which has been forgotten for 5 to 6 centuries ago. It wouldn't have been possible without studying Abhinavagupta. Abhinavagupta's commentary for Natya Shastra is like, the Urai that you have for Shilapadigaram or Tirukkural, more difficult to understand than the original because it is elaborate, very elaborate. And I want to read out one small quotation where Abhinavagupta himself says what a commentary has to be like. he gives a methodology of how to write a commentary. You can imagine all that is included in the commentary. Examining all that is to be digested, eliminating the irrelevant, elucidating with clarity, solving contradictions, abiding by the conventions of the original text, deciphering riddle-like meanings, spotting out the comparisons, justifying any repetitions, and all that with the quality of brevity. This is Abhinavagupta's commentary. If this is what I have seen for Natya Shastra, it should be the same with all his other works. I don't want to say that I had studied all of Abhinavagupta's works, because one lifetime is not enough to go through one subject. And for the past 50 years, I have been studying Abhinavagupta to learn the Natya Shastra properly. There couldn't have been a practical reconstruction of those movements without his help. And I must say that when Abhinavagupta was writing the commentary for Natya Shastra in Srinagar, simultaneously Rajaraja Chola was creating sculptures for Natya Shastra at Tanjavur Brigadishwara temple. For a moment, think of it. Why should it happen? What is the importance of Natya Shastra? Why somebody is sitting and, is it a waste of time for a philosopher like Abhinavagupta to read the Natya Shastra? He must have thought that it's a divine subject. It is not a tamasha. He saw the divinity in that work, divinity in the art. And same thing with Rajaraja in Tamil Nadu. How can you say that this country was never a nation? It is more than a nation. A nation may be a political term, but this is stronger. It's a cultural, religious, and philosophical oneness. So this is what Abhinavagupta and Rajaraja give us. And mind you, Abhinavagupta was writing commentary on Natya Shastra not for the first time. There had been at least, I don't want to go into the details, at least about 7 to 8 commentaries on Natya Shastra. But the most important thing is, all those commentaries came from Kashmir. So literary commentary comes from Kashmir and sculptural commentary comes from Tamil Nadu. This is the binding that you see. And another greatest contribution of Abhinavagupta for performing arts, and I would say even more for Alankara Shastra, is the rasa theory. Of course, it is Bharata who gave the rasa theory. For those who are not used to the terms, I would like to say, you would have seen critics writing. It was so full of bhava. The dance was full of rasa. The drama was full of... And they may or may not know the difference between bhava and rasa. Bharata's definition goes as vibhava, anubhava, vyabhichari, samyogat, rasa nishpatti. This is Bharata's definition. For this, you should understand what bhava is. I'll make it as simple as possible. Bhava is feeling. Vibhava is the cause for the feeling. Anubhava is the effect of feeling. The cause of somebody crying is somebody has given you a slap. The effect of that is that you're crying. You understand? And make it as simple as possible. And there is there's a list of 41 bhavas or different feelings which Bharata gives. And not all of them have any dominant or steady effect. First 8 are called sthayi bhavas. They are like pillars, 8 pillars for a mantapa. The rest of the bhavas, they enter and go away, strengthening the pillar, like small fleeting bhavas like jealousy or a bhava of being tired. All that comes in and goes away. So they are called vyabhichari bhava. And these together in right proportion, when properly enacted, it has to be enacted. Enactment is called abhinaya. Expressing an idea is abhinaya. Abhi is in front. Naya comes from the root ni, drawn towards the spectator and nailed on the head. So this abhinaya brings the bhava, vibhava, anubhava, and when all that is completely in proper proportion, the enjoyment that you as Rasika get is rasa. So this is the process through which rasa is born. So from 8 sthayi bhavas, 8 rasas are born. This is Bharata's theory. And what did Abhinavagupta say? He explains all that, but goes one step above as a philosopher. He says, whether it is 8 or 9 is debated. The 9th will be Shanta, that was included in some of the editions. But Abhinavagupta says, enjoyment is enjoyment. Whether it is something very sad, whether it is sorrow, or something which is terrible. Don't you know, we see terrible scenes in the films. And I know a hero has died, and Rasika comes out wiping his eyes saying, it was not that hero I died, I enjoyed dying. Even that terrible scene is an enjoyment because it is not something which affects your outer self. It is enjoyment, and that enjoyment is close to Brahmananda because Atma is Anandamaya. At least momentarily, exposure to beauty kindles that Atmananda in you. That is why Natya is understood as another yoga. So this is Abhinavagupta's theory of rasa, which has given a totally philosophic dimension to the way in which you understand aesthetics. And this is it's not like catharsis of Greece, where because somebody is crying, you purge out bad things from your mind. It is not that. it's not sadistic pleasure of modern psychologists, but it is something highly philosophical. And this is a rasa theory which Abhinavagupta propagated, and it has been guiding not only the Kashmirians, it has been guiding the entire Bharatiya literary world. I'm so happy that you have done so much to revive the monuments in Kashmir. Your organization is thriving, I know, without any government support. Like the squirrel in the Ramayana, which helped in building the bridge, I would like to offer to my dear Kashmirians who are extended family of mine, I will be happy to give you benefit performance. You collect funds for all your work in Kashmir. I thank Sri Sitaraman for the phenomenal work that you are doing. Not only building this extraordinary complex, giving a house for the seniors who are the treasure house of knowledge and experience, whose experience has to be made use of by the present and following generations. And you have given a beautiful complex for them. And you have written an extraordinary book. Many books you have written. Today he's releasing a book very relevant to today's function, Trika, the connection between Abhinavagupta and Tirumular. What a contribution it is. This is something I had been telling my students, do something about it. There is an extraordinary connection between Kashmiri Shaivism and the Shaiva Siddhanta of Tamil Nadu. And I was so happy. An hour back, he presented me his book. Already I have gone through some pages. It's very interesting, so informative, wonderful work you have done. My hearty congratulations to you for your academic work along with this extraordinary responsibility that you have taken. And once again, my humble namaskarams and my humble gratitude to our friends who thought I deserved honor in the name of the great Acharya, Abhinavagupta Acharya. I take it as a blessing from that great soul. Thank you so much for this honor.